Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Tonight, we're going to be looking at Young Master number 1 through 5. This is the first part of a 2-part series looking at every issue of this comic book that came out during the height of the black and white boom in 1987. Now, I was buying these comics off the racks, and they were so head and shoulders above most of the black and white comics that were coming out, almost all of them. Of course, there's a lot of crap, like really just like substandard crud coming out during that time. And then all of a sudden, this comic comes out, no fanfare. It's right in the racks next to adolescent radioactive black belt hamsters or whatever it's called. And it's got like these painted covers by Mayerick, who I knew since I was a kid, worked for Marvel. And I was just like, how the hell did this little company get this kind of talent? And it's a little comics company called New Comics Group, which lasted like 2 years. They had other titles too that were pretty outstanding with some really stellar contributors. Man, then they went away. So I don't know much about them, but I am amazed at just the caliber of stuff they put out, considering they're really dinky. They're a dinky little company that didn't last. So let's check these out. Here we got number 1. And look at this cover. I didn't even know Mayerick could paint, first of all, and then this well. There's been some talk on the comment section in this channel about the merits of Mayerick. And I gotta say, if any of you naysayers, this is gonna shut your mouth right up, because this stuff is amazing. I always liked Mayerick. I wasn't as huge a fan as a certain Canadian friend of mine, but it's just some of his stuff, his faces looked a little weird and shaggy and wonky every now and then. But this is just blows everything out of the water that you've ever seen by him. It's really remarkable stuff. So let's crack this open, even though I just want to stare at this cover for 5 minutes. So we start off with a little introduction from Editor-in-Chief Valerie Jones. Valerie Jones is an interesting character. Her name pops up a lot in the 80s. And first of all, her signature looks very much like Jeffrey Catherine Jones' signature. I don't know if there's some relation between the two. I don't know. And she seems like, when she has worked on stuff, to have like some kind of connections to like some really outstanding talents. I don't know if maybe she was working behind the scenes. Maybe she worked at Warren, because I'll tell you in a second, there's a big Warren Comics connection in this comic. But she just lays it gives us some notes. We have a nice little sketch from Mayerick, and we start off with the first story. So these stories originally appeared in Warren comics such as Creepy and Eerie in the, I think, mid to late 70s. And they're the brainchild of Larry Hama. I'm sure most of you know him from G.I. Joe, but I know him from Wolf the Barbarian. And this is before Larry Hama became a big editor at Marvel and did all that G.I. Joe stuff. He was a freelancer, and a really good one. And he created this series because his love of Japanese martial arts. And this is obviously by the cover, this is all really great samurai ninja stuff in the historical period of Japan. And Mayerick drew them all. Now, unfortunately, because these are reprinted from old Warren comics, the printing, I guess they couldn't get the originals or the original stats or whatever they call them. There's some muddy printing in these first 2 issues, as you can see. It's a crying shame, because this is some of Mayerick's best art, is his best art, and it's so muddy in a lot of places. It gets better. It's only the first 2 issues. It slowly gets better and better, and pretty soon won't be an issue. But this first story is called The Art of Killing. I don't know what issue of Eerie or Creepy was in, but the first couple issues are just going to be reprints of these Warren. So maybe that's how Valerie Jones has some connections to all these great artists who used to work at Warren. I don't know. Maybe she worked there. So I'm going to read the little introduction here. All the narration is first person of the young master. He's the narrator. I have no name. I never had one. My father has a name, but by official decree of the great Lord, no man may utter it under pain of death. For practical purposes, my father is called the Old Master, and I am known only as the Young Master. Him and his father live on this mountain away from it all. And basically, since he's been a child, his father has trained him in the art of killing. All of a sudden, we see this guy in a demon mask jump out and attack him. But you can probably guess it's just his dad. It's part of his training. This is like an everyday occurrence where he tries to, kill his son or attack him. Man, look at this illustration. This is just so good, the level of drawing skill shown here. So every couple of weeks, the young master's uncles, the father's brothers, come to visit to give him additional training because they were all masters of their particular martial art. One is a spearman, one is a master of the throwing star, and one is a master of the horse-killing sword. So then after training with his dad all day, then when they've come to visit, train some more with these guys. They teach him, it's almost like a graduate course in martial arts. At night, they sit around the campfire singing songs and telling stories. Young master loves them as much as he loves his father. So we see more scenes of them training. They're under a waterfall, and an acorn falls down, and the father, tries to show off, tries to cut it in half as it falls, and he misses. And he tells his son, I'm getting old. I'm not going to be around, I can't do this forever. And I got to teach you everything before I die. And that night, their meal was interrupted by the three uncles unexpectedly arrive. They say, we have a message from the great Lord. We have 2 sealed orders. The first order must be executed before the second one may be delivered. Of course, disobedience of either is death. He hands young master the note, and he says, I don't even have to open this note. I can tell by your apprehension why you're here. And he attacks them. He knows that they're there to kill him. And he has learned well, because even though his uncles are masters in all of their martial arts, he kills them one by one. Found Mayerick is a student of martial arts. I think he was like a black belt. He's like really knows his stuff. So you can see all this the fights seem more authentic. They seem pretty, he's not bullshitting. So he pulls the message out from this severed hand. He chopped off one of his uncle's hands, and it's just a blank piece of paper. Now the father knows what's going on. He says, okay, I'm going to walk up to the mountaintop, open the second message, and burn it after you read it, and then come up and see me. And so basically the father's going to challenge him to the death. Now, this is so interesting and weird about this feudal society in Japan, where they're so loyal to the great lord that they're willing to kill their relatives, their loves, anyone. The great lord has basically, persecuted the father. You can't even say his name. He's basically a criminal. And yet he's still, anytime if he gets a message from the great lord, he does it. It's so weird, this whole mentality. And we'll see this throughout the comic. Due to this, no one can be trusted. Even people that seem to love young master, and they do. They'll betray him in a second if the great lord, sends a message. So the father attacks. And in his mind, this is his graduation. young master's graduation. I've trained you your whole life and to be able to kill me, someone as good as me. If you can't, I will kill you. It's ridiculous. It's so dumb because he's trained him so well, but he's still going to kill him. Just like, yeah, you're not good enough to kill me. It's so dumb. So the son says, Father, stop this. I'm younger and stronger, and you've taught me everything you know. And he says, I didn't teach you the secret of the immovable blade. And now we will find out what it is. So young master runs his father through with a sword, but he doesn't fall down, and he actually keeps talking. And he says, this is the secret. You cannot withdraw your blade. My muscles hold it in place. I don't know how you would practice that without dying. And of course, he can't pull his blade out, so he's prone. And so the father lunges in for the kill, but then purposefully misses and doesn't kill his son. And the father says, I have very little time. I have to tell you a bunch of stuff. There's a third order from the great Lord. He wants you to travel to the gate of Rashomon. A monk there will give you another sealed message. And he basically says, me and my brothers have trained you for 20 years for this day. Don't dishonor us. I am happy, that I've succeeded. I've trained you so well that you could kill me. And then I guess the father wants to show off one more time. And he throws the letter into the air, dislodging an acorn from the tree. And he pulls the sword out of his chest and slices it in half. God, that's a great panel. That's just really nice drawing. And then he falls over and dies. Young master walks down, leaves the mountain, and heads to Rashomon. We have this nice little pinup here. Beautiful, kind of like watercolory looking wash tone effect by Val Mayerick. You could tell Val Mayerick was really invested in this. He could have been getting big bucks at Marvel at this time. And even though these are just reprints at first, he's contributing color covers, sketches, pinups all over the place. And then when the comic stops the reprints, he comes full on board, drawing a full comic every month for them, or every other month, whatever. And I'm sure they couldn't have paid him as much as Marvel. I doubt it, because there's a totally rinky-dink comic company here. This is a tale of prose story, obviously, by this guy named, I think his name was Ham Christie. It takes place in the world of Young Master, kind of in that milieu. It's not very good. It's a kind of clunky writing. Next, we have the second story reprinted from Warren. The young master has made it to the gates of Rashomon, and he finds the monk practicing his archery. Ninjas attack. Young master dispatches of most of them, but then there's one left, and the monk pulls his bow back and lets it fly. Now the ninja, he executes a perfect maneuver, the dragon sacrificing his own wing. So if this, he's gonna basically just wound himself, let his arm take the brunt of the blow. But what he doesn't know is this monk is so kick-ass, he actually shoots iron arrows. That's how strong he is. It goes right through his arm, right through his chest, and kills him. So the monk says, come inside, let's meditate in my temple. And what Young Master doesn't know is in the brazier, he lights some incense. It's laced with opium. He starts tripping. I like these little trippy images. This dragon, butterflies explode out of its belly, and then he passes out. He wakes up in a jail cell, and the monk tells him through this little window, he says, you're not to leave this room until you've read every book in here. In fact, you won't get a bowl of rice until you've read 10, and a cup of water until you've read 5 more. And there's also puzzles in there. And he tells him all this, and then he shuts the window. And for the next weeks and months, Young Master's stuck in this room. He reads every book, does every puzzle, keeps in shape. Yeah, more of this bad printing, but you can still tell the art's really solid. I like this too. There's a little counterpoint to this side of the monk shooting an arrow. It's very 3D-ish. It like really pops out. It breaks the panel border. So after like, I think 3 months or so, he's done. The monk opens the door and is aiming an arrow at his chest. He says, okay, this is your new order from the great lord. You will go to the fortress of Old Man Yagyu, the father of ninjas, sworn enemy of the great lord. You shall enter the castle and slay the man's oldest son. Yagyu fortress is impenetrable, but a lone swordsman can enter legitimately if he has the proper credentials. He says, credentials? And he's like, look at the shelves on either side of me. You have 3 seconds to pick one, and put it in this box, whichever you think is the right credentials. Of course, what he doesn't know at first is he's right in between these treasures, his head. So he's about to shoot the arrow. He does shoot the arrow. Young master blocks it with his sword and chops his head off. It lands right in the box. Those are the credentials. So it wasn't anything on these shelves. It was right there. And he heads out of the monastery. Oh my God, I just totally missed this. He didn't block the arrow. He had one of those books with an iron cover in his shirt. I can't believe I just noticed that. So now all these issues are padded out with other Warren stories that Val Mayerick drew. They have nothing to do with Young Master. They're standalone stories, just like Creepy and Eerie always had. And this one's written by Bob Toomey, who wrote a lot of stuff for Warren. But I gotta say, guys, like I was saying earlier about the people who aren't big fans of Val Mayerick, I think this will change their mind. This is just amazing illustration. This is like, Alfredo Alcala, but with a lot more character. I just love the way he draws this dragon. I love this horse's face. It's like very well drawn, but it's also kind of goofy. A little cartooniness thrown in. Look at even this logo, Shrivel, is amazing with this Celtic design work. This is just a beautiful page all around. So it takes place in some crappy kingdom. The soil's poor, the peasants are pathetic, the king's a moron, the queen's a shrew. One day a fearsome dragon arrives, and the sole knight of this kingdom comes out. I like how he's got his lance is all bent, and it's just very low rent, this whole kingdom. I like too how the king's name is King Cankersore. And the dragon immediately just blasts him with his fiery breath and fries him. Meanwhile, on the parapets of the castle, the king and the queen and his son, the prince, are watching this. The knight was the queen's brother, so she's very bereaved. And the king, though, is just like, hey, I want to watch the dragon devour your uncle. Leave me alone, kid. Because the kid's like saying, pick a card, any card. Totally, he doesn't care about his wife. This is her grief. So then the wife tears into him. She starts berating him and yelling at him. And she looks at the telescope herself, and the dragon's approaching the castle. He's picking his teeth with the lance. Look at this, great. Just every panel on this is really well drawn. The castle's so old and decrepit that the chains are all rusty, so they can't pull up what is it called? The parapet? Whatever it's called. And the drawbridge, sorry. And the dragon makes it into the castle in a well-drawn manner. So as soon as he gets there, the kid says, pick a card, any card. He says, sorry, kid, not right now. I want to eat your parents. So the wife just tears into the dragon, like, who do you think you are? You're a brute and a bully. Do you know who I am? Yada, yada, yada. And he just tortures her. He's like, man, was she always like that? And the king says, always. So then the dragon gives them a choice. He tells the king, either you or your son, I'll eat either one of them. The other one I'll let live and stay here and rule the kingdom. the father goes into this heartfelt speech about how his son is the light of his world and the sun to his earth. And he goes on, and the dragon torches him. He's like, man, that guy talks too much. And look at this, also this great character here. Oh, kind of looks like Gene Colan. This kid with his buck teeth. That's just really nice drawing and cartooning. So the dragon leans against a pillar. The castle crumbles. They escape, him and the little boy. The dragon basically says, I'm moving on. I'm going to find more people to eat, more royalty. And the kid starts crying. He's like, please take me with you. I always hated living here. Can I come with you? And the dragon relents. Says, come on, kid, sure. And off they go. Maybe to have more adventures. I don't think they did, though. But I wouldn't mind reading about this little kid and the dragon. Here's another Mayerick thing. This is a black and white version of a color painting, which we luckily will see in a few issues, the full color version. Kind of a shame. It still looks kind of cool, but so, it's ridiculous. I just want to see the color version, the painted version. And you get another painting on the back cover, another very well done painting. Next we have number 2, another painting. You get 2 great paintings every issue in this. I also like how there's no logo on this comic. They just have this little thing, so the art really gets to breathe, spread out over the whole cover. We start off with the 3rd story, Lair of the Assassins. Young Master has arrived at Yagyu Castle. He shows the head of that monk, Priest Do-Shin. And Priest Do-Shin was an enemy of the Yagyu, so this is a good currency to get in. All these Young Master stories are still Larry Hama writing and Val Mayerick drawing, just by the way. Man, look at this. This is like pure Neil Adams greatness. This is so Neil Adamsy, which is good. Because there's a lot of guys who try to rip off Neil Adams, but they couldn't do it this well. So he's ushered in to the chambers of Lord Yagyu. Lord Yagyu knows everything. He's like, don't try lying to me. I know why you're here. I know that the great Lord has put out a warrant for my son, and I even know your father. I know who your father is. In fact, he chopped off my arm 30 years ago. So he says, well, who am I to defy the will of the great Lord? Here's my eldest son. Kill him if you can. And we see that the son has a human shield. This cute little girl as his armor. Her name is Yuki. She's the niece of the great Lord, a princess. And the penalty for harming princesses is instant death. So it's going to be a tough fight, or for anyone else, but not for Young Master. Very quickly, he just sidesteps the son, moves behind him, cuts him right in two so deftly that he doesn't harm the girl, just cuts the binds, and she falls to the ground safely. I love this shit. I don't even know is this real, this kind of stuff? Has this ever happened in real life? But I love samurai movies, how they have these scenes of like just a guy getting split in two and the blood just going whoa, like a volcano, like a geyser. It's so crazy fun. That's one of my favorite part of all samurai fiction. So Young Master picks up Yuki. When he looks under a blindfold, her eyes have been gouged out, burned out by a red-hot poker wielded by Lord Yagyu himself. So if we haven't guessed already, Lord Yagyu's an utter villain. He's terrible. He orders his archers to kill him. Young Master grabs the two arrows heading his way, spins them around to show off like a baton twirl, and then throws them at Lord Yagyu. He catches one, but one goes right in his eye. Seemingly unfazed, he orders the rest of his men to kill him. Young Master fights his way through this crowd of ninjas, makes his way to the roof to escape. Man, look at Yagyu. He's just yanking the arrow out. He's not even whimpering or he doesn't even seem to be in pain. Some pursuing ninjas throw these kind of smoke bombs at him. When they explode near the Young Master, they have some poison in them that blinds him. He can't see a thing. Yuki, who's kind of used to being blind by now, She's like, here, take my hand. I know there's a moat at the end of this roof. So while arrows are flying after them, they jump into the moat. And now we see they leave behind Lord Yagu, who's using another red-hot poker to cauterize his wound. He's not even wincing in pain. And of course, he's vowing revenge on the young master and orders his death, and Yuki as well. Chapter 2 of this story, we see this guy. He's a juggler in a carnival. He's been abducted and brought before a shadowy figure. He can't see who he is. He's kind of in the shadows, but he knows that he's got to suck up to this guy. He's like, please, your lordship, have mercy on this miserable lout. I'll tell you anything. And what they want to know is they suspect that he's seen a blind swordsman and a blind little girl. And he has, because in his carnival, the past few months, is a new act. And here we see the new act. Some very crazy juggling trick, acrobatics trick they have worked out. This is called The Juggler's Tale, by the way. And they're very popular with the audience. The owner of the carnival, his name's Yanagira. He really loves this little girl. He's always like, can I comb your hair? And he's giving her gifts because his daughter, he just says she went far away. So we assume she's dead. And that's why he loves this little girl so much, because it's like his substitute for his daughter. He gives her this butterfly pin for her hair. And young master and Yuki walk off. The next day, the carnival owner teaches Yuki a trick. It's called the willow wand seeks the bottle's heart. So he ties up a bottle with a thin neck, spins it on a rope, and then while closing his eyes, he jabs a willow wand right into the hole, right as it's facing him. And he says, oh yeah, it's a trick because basically when the bottle of the pitch changes when it's pointing straight at you. So if you listen, you can tell when the bottle's pointing right at you. I'll teach you this trick, little one. And he does. The next day, the juggler is outside the carnival owner's room. A carrier pigeon arrives. The juggler's curious. He climbs up the roof and wants to see what's going on. When he reads the note from the carrier pigeon, the carnival owner looks just shocked. And he's so shocked he kills the poor carrier pigeon. I don't know, it's not like he's going to tell anyone what's on the note. He also hears the juggler outside. And he's threatening him with he's got this weird weapon. It's just like a metal stick that could just pierce things. He says, I fear you know too much, but since you do know this much, I'm going to tell you everything. So, I used to be a Yagyu assassin, and now they're contacting me. Apparently, there's a bounty on the head of this swordsman, and Yagyu has had his daughter for years. Even though he was a Yagyu assassin, old man Yagyu tricked him, said, oh, I'll take care of your daughter while you're away in China learning about poisons. But then he never gave her back. And so he figures with this ransom, he can get his daughter back. Instead of the gold being offered, he can trade it for his daughter. The next day, he goes to visit the young master and Yuki, who are up in the hot springs. And he says, hold still, there's a viper on the rock. And he pulls out his stabbing thing. Yuki leaps off of the rock where she's sitting, lands right between the two, and then she cocks her head as if listening to the air moving past the old man's nostrils like the wind whistling across the mouth of a narrow-necked bottle. And she stabs him right through the nose with the butterfly hat pin that he gave her. So the little girl says, he really had nothing to live for anyway. I didn't tell him, but his daughter, I shared a cell with her in Yagu's castle. She cut her own throat 2 years ago. So she's been dead for years. he didn't know. He always had this hope of getting his daughter back. He was willing to kill young master for it. It seems that the healing waters of the hot springs have finally cured a young master of his blindness, and him and Yuki walk off. Now back to the present. Man, look at that face. This is just such well-drawn shit. The juggler realizes that the shadowy figure he's been talking to, he probably guessed, it's old man Yagyu. And he just slices his head in two. This is amazing. There he is. What a badass. We got another one of these little short stories by Ham Christie, Blind Faith. I think it said that this is Valerie Jones' art. I'm not sure. I might have mixed that up. Another story that takes place in the Young Master world. Now we have another one of those standalone stories from a reprint from Warren. Swift Sculpture. This is also written by Bob Toomey. This is this woman named Cat's Eye with her pet wolf Temujin, and she's wandering through this winter wasteland, and she's talking about how they're looking for someone. She's like, "Oh, he's up there somewhere in the mountains. We'll get there soon enough." But then these things that kind of look like abominable snowmen jump out of the snow. They're called snow ghasts, and they attack. Temujin attacks one. She attacks a couple others, but one of them kills their horse, their pack mule horse. So between her and the wolf, they kill almost all of the snow gas, except for one who they leave alive so he could be their new pack mule. And the whole time, he's just going, "God, I hate you guys so much. I'm going to fucking kill you." So finally, the wolf, Temujin, gets a scent. It's in this cave. So they all go in there. Finally, the Snowghast rebels. He's like, "This place is too evil. It scares me. I got to get out of here." And he attacks Cat's Eye. Man, that's a great monster face. Look at that drawing. He swats Temujin aside violently. She jabs this burning piece of wood into his face. Look at this. Oh, it's so great. The body language there, really nice. And he dies. She sits over Temujin. It looks like he's not long for this world. And then all of a sudden, this voice says, "Here, take this." And it's a dragon. Very well-drawn dragon. He says, "This is a drop of my blood. If you melt it in your palm," because it looks like a jewel, "if you melt it in your palm and let your dog lap it up, your wolf lap it up, he'll fully recover." And it works. He's fine. She apologizes to the dragon, saying, "I brought you all these gifts, but they all burned up. The snow gas landed on him." It's like, "I don't really care. You could do me a big favor, though. Would you guys pose for me?" So it turns out he's a sculptor. He has all these ice sculptures. He has a gallery of them. And he says, "Oh, it would be great if you guys would pose for me." So they do. And I love this. He's got blocks of ice. And somehow his fiery breath is so fine-tuned that he can just blast a block of ice and make it come out like that. So then she says, "The reason I'm here is there's this little kingdom. They want you to make us a monument, a memorial to the mariners who lost their lives." So he agrees. He flies them there, and they tug this, basically like an ice ship. I guess that's the memorial. Not very impressive. But the king of this kingdom is very happy. He says, "Oh, that's beautiful. And here's your payment." And they pull a tarp off this thing, and it's a beautiful female dragon. And he's thrilled. He's just all like, "Hubba, hubba." And it's a happy ending for everyone except the poor Snowghasts. I love this pinup here. Totally different style. Of course, 10 years have passed since all the stuff we've been reading and this. But just a very clean line, very different from his very, cross-hatched and illustrative style. It looks great to me. It's almost like Walt Simonson. Get another nice sketch and another nice painted back cover. God, this one is amazing. This looks like a movie poster from like 1982. I think that guy's name was Bob Peak or something, who did all those iconic movie posters. This is some slick shit. That looks really good. Next, we have number 3. Another great cover. I like how he incorporates this like old-timey Japanese art with this. So we're still reprinting the stories. So we got Fugue State here, the 4th Young Master story. This one's kind of a weird one. Young Master kind of wakes up. He doesn't know who he is, doesn't know where he is, who he is, where he is. He's bleeding from a dozen wounds, but he feels no pain. His sword is caked in gore, and he's just in this white void. So he's just totally lost. He finally gets a little flashback, a little memory. He remembers having an audience with Lord Toda, who promised a safe passage to the castle of the Great Lord for him. And now back in this void-like space, all of a sudden he realizes it's just a white room, a giant white room, and these screens open and all these ninjas come out to attack him. Now in the flashback with Lord Toda, Lord Toda betrays them, and there's ninjas attack them back in the past. So now we cut between the 2 times Young Master fighting all these ninjas. Man, this is just carnage going on. Excuse me, guys. Man, look at this effect here. This almost looks like airbrush, like Corbin, especially the stuff he did at Warren. It's really skillful stuff. I like this image here of the white room, but there's blood everywhere. That would be nice to see in color. So back to the flashback. Lord Toda's abducting Yuki, and but Young Master takes him out with a spear through the eye. Man, this comic really utilizes the injury to eye motif a lot. Frederick Wortham would be shocked by this comic. There's so much injury to eye motifs going on. And after killing everybody, they walk away. Next story, we have a little prologue page. I kind of like this page, just no words, no narration. It's just simple line grid storytelling. We see the little Yuki in a village. People keep passing her by and she just stands there. But then finally this one guy passes and she says, "Sir, would you help me find the center of town, please?" He says, "I'll do you one better. Hop up on my shoulders, little cutie pie. I'll take you there myself." While they're walking by this tavern, these 4 no-good-nicks, they've got a wanted poster, pretty much describing the Young Master and a little blind girl. And they're like, "That must be him. We want the bounty," so they attack. Turns out this guy's a quite formidable samurai. And he just takes these guys out in 4 seconds. Look at this again. Just slices this guy in half. The top half is sliding diagonally off of his body. The Young Master shows up. He recognizes this guy. He says, "Harada the jokester. I recognize you by your skill." And he says, "I imagine you have a message from the Great Lord for me." He says, "I do." And so once again, you're like, "Ah, shit." Because all the messages from the Great Lord are just like, you're going to die. So, and then just to confirm our fears, Harada pulls out his blade and swings seemingly right at Young Master. But actually he was deflecting this throwing star thrown by this guy. And Yuki, in a split second, takes the butterfly hairpin out of her hair and whips it at this guy right in his neck and kills him. Yuki is She looks like just this cute little girl, but she's amazing. So Harada says, it's too dangerous to talk here. Meet me at the cemetery at midnight. It's kind of interesting. I wonder if Val Mayerick did this on purpose. Because Larry Hama did have long hair like this back in the 70s. I've seen pictures of him. So I wonder if this is supposed to be like Larry Hama. So we're at the cemetery. Oh, I skipped a page. And Harada gets there early. All these ninjas come out. This is the Syndicate of 20, occult fencers in the service of Lord Yagyu, masters of the poison sword. They say, deliver the two of them to us so we can bring it to Lord Yagyu, and we'll give you 100,000 pieces of gold. If you refuse, you die. Now he tells them, he says, the great Lord has actually dispatched me to deliver a death warrant on the princess. For I don't know why the great Lord wants to kill his own niece. The executor of that warrant is to be the young master. After he kills her, I am to kill him. So that's what's so weird about this world. Young master, the great Lord has basically declared himself an enemy of him. And yet, if he gets an order from him, no matter what it is, like kill this little girl, he will do it. This sense of loyalty and fealty to your Lord is just, it's nuts. And he says, however, I've changed my mind. I've decided not to deliver the message. They'll live. You are the ones who are going to die. And he laughs. He takes on all these 20 ninja. We cut away to the time of till young master arrives with Yuki. Look at this here. I don't know if this is the muddied printing. I don't think so. It almost looks like a totally different style. I don't know if it's like woodcut or something. It looks really interesting. Like very expressive, weird line work here. So they show up and they find Harada bleeding to death with poison in his wounds. He says, please, the pain is so great. I'm done for. Finish me off. You owe me for this, for saving your life. And young master kills him. Yuki says, I wonder what the message was. And young master says, I guess we'll never know. It's very casual sounding, but really, just if they received that message, he would have killed her. It's just crazy. We have another prose story by Ham Christie, Jokester, with a nice drawing by Val Mayerick. This one's a little better. I kind of like this story more than the first two. And we also get an illustration from Valerie Jones, the editor. Next, we get one of those standalone Warren stories, and this is it's written by Bruce Jones, so it's good. And it's amazing how just Bruce Jones was such a cut above every other writer back then. And this is a really interesting sci-fi story, Family Ties. We see this dog, and the captions are from the dog's point of view. Trying to think like a dog, how dogs would, think. And I always love those kind of stories. Because who knows what's going on in a dog's head. But sometimes writers try to imagine. So he's just called Dog. And it's obviously he's in some weird future. We kind of get a sense that it's like a post-apocalyptic future. It seems like there's no humans left on Earth. And also, the main change, though, is that all animals now are filled with the awareness, which basically is sentience. For some reason, all the animals now can think and communicate and talk to each other. So, and because of this, they also have suppressed their instincts, and they've all kind of united, all the different brotherhoods and families of animals. They've all agreed not to kill each other, and they kind of have this civilization going. So Dog is on this mission, and he comes upon this bear. I like how the bear sniffs his butt, almost like checking his credentials, like, let's see if you're on the up and up. So apparently the dog is searching for the old one, because the old one can tell him how to prepare for the coming of man. Now, the way these animals talk about man is as if they were talking about gods. How they just say, oh, man will return and we have to be ready. And they're excited about it. The bear says, watch out for the floaters. And very quickly, one of them comes by. These weird, enigmatic orbs of light with a human face in the middle. They never speak. They just kind of float around. But the animals are terrified of them, even though they've never hurt anyone. But the animals are just freaked out by them, as you would be. I'd be freaked out too. So then he meets another bear. And this bear's kind of a jerk. And he's kind of threatening him. He's like, would you like to fight? But then the real bear, the actual, just like he's dog because he's the leader of his family, this is bear, the leader of the bear family. He basically says, get the hell out of here, you jerk. I got really important shit to talk about with the dog here. So he tells him more about the old one and, tells him how to get there, how to find it. And then all of a sudden this tree starts talking to him. God, look at this illustration here. This is like Arthur Rackham or something. This is so good. And even the dog didn't know trees could talk. I guess it's a recent development. He's like, you trees have the awareness now? The trees are not thrilled about man returning. The tree tells dog, he says, they used to burn us and chop us down all the time to make their buildings. I don't want man to return. And then dog runs into a female dog. And this part's really interesting because Bruce Jones is trying to describe what it feels like to be in heat. It's really interesting. And, the female dog's in heat and dog is very interested. And they're running around, it's kind of like foreplay. Them just running around the forest. And he can feel his instincts coming back, He's not as sentient as he once was. Off camera, luckily, they do the nasty. And then he says, I got to get back to my mission. Hopefully I'll return and run with you again. Because that's the euphemism, I'll run with you. So she says, before you go, have some food with me. You must be starving. And she shows him this dead rabbit behind a bush. And he says, oh my God, it is against the family. It is against the ways of man, which shows how little they know about what actual men were like. It's like, are you not of the awareness? And she says, yeah, I talk, don't I? But the rabbit was injured. I was hungry. I couldn't help myself. So obviously, just like humans, they still feel these urges and instincts, which make them do things they're not supposed to do. And then right then, this giant elk comes out with all these other little rabbits. He says, you have broken the rule of the brotherhood. She must be punished, or you must be punished. And all the rabbits are going, murder! The female dog begs for a dog to help her. And he doesn't. He's just like, oh, no way, man. Like, I guess that's just the worst sin you could do, killing another animal. And in this scene, we see all the rabbits jumping on her, killing her. Which I don't know. I don't think 100 rabbits could kill a dog. But then again, rabbits are, they don't really attack. If they decided to attack, maybe they'd be quite vicious. So now dog, continuing on his way, runs into this elk. I think it's a different elk. Yeah, that was a moose earlier. This is some kind of elk. And this elk is being a dick. He's like, I'm the guard of the old one. You seek the old one? He's receiving no one because he's dying. Go away. He says, no, I have to talk to him. He says, if you don't go away, I'm going to gore you with my antlers. He says, I don't care. Attack me if you want, but I've got to talk to the old one. So the elk tries to gore him with his antlers, and the dog sidesteps him and bites his foot. He attacks him again, and he bites his other foot, this time crippling him, breaking the bone. And the dog feels terrible. He says, I've gone against the brotherhood. I've crippled you. He says, no, you don't understand. This was a test. We had to make sure you're worthy. Go see the old one now. So he runs along. We see this old circus trailer. Chimpanzee, jungle, thrills. God, every panel on this is really gorgeous. The illustration. He goes inside. The old one is an old orangutan or some kind of ape. And then right then, a floater pops up. And for the first time, the floater talks. He says he is dead. The last of his kind. You're too late. Listen carefully. Man comes tonight. You must be prepared. And he kind of tells them about how there was a nuclear holocaust. Missiles fell. And you guys are the result of that holocaust. For some reason, now all the animals can communicate. They're not just dumb animals. So he says, you have to make man understand what's happened here, happened to you and the rest of the animals. You must make them understand if you are to survive. And he floats off. Before he does, though, he tells the dog that you can call us man. So apparently the humans that stayed on Earth evolved into these weird floaters. But now the humans that escaped Earth and went out into space, here they are returning for the first time since the Holocaust. The dog sees them. And the astronauts are taking readings to see how the radiation is. It's still really high. And they see the dog. Now the dog is thinking. He's like, oh, he has to make them understand. But his instincts kick in. He can't help but wagging his tail as he runs towards the humans. When they pat him on the head, tides of pleasure course through him. He can't help but lick their hand. And then when they throw a stick at him, for him, he goes to chase it. And he describes it as their laughter was like waves of pure love. Almost how you imagine like dogs might feel. They seem to love mankind, men so much, humans. So, but even if he wasn't reverting to his instincts, it turns out all the animals are telepathic. Of course, humans aren't. They're vocal. So he can't communicate with them anyway. He doesn't know how to do it, how he can make them understand. He doesn't understand what they're saying. And unfortunately, they're saying, yeah, we're going to have to come back with lasers and scrub the whole planet, burn it clean of radiation. It's a damn shame. A lot of poor dumb animals are going to get toasted, And he doesn't understand he doesn't hear a word they're saying or understand. And it's so sad as they take off. He says, oh, I'm sure they're just going back to get more men and bring all the men back to live here. Hurry back, he cried to them. We have waited faithfully. We would wait forever. If you've ever loved a dog, this story is so sad. Because you almost feel like even in this, with sentience, dogs are that like just lovey and loyal, We get another nice sketch by Mayerick, a letter page, and another painting, full color painting. Next we have Young Master number 4. Very dramatic cover there by Mayerick. And there's a big change this issue. They're out of the Young Master stories from Warren. So luckily, they decided to keep going. Unfortunately, Larry Hama was too busy over at Marvel at this point in 1988. So they got this guy, Larry Yakata, to write this. All I could find of this guy was he wrote a bunch of Conan stories for Savage Sword of Conan and this. And I don't think he wrote anything else. But luckily, Val Mayerick wasn't busy in 1988, and he draws this whole full issue. And as you can see, the art is very different. Just 10 years have passed. And look at this. He's just using all this like delicate wash tone, or I don't know if there's watercolor involved. I don't know. I'm not an artist. I don't know the tools. But whatever it is, it's beautiful. Look at this drawing here. Look how great that is. That's some amazing stuff. So the story begins. Young Master and Yuki have to get on a ferry. They want to cross this body of water to get to Hokkaido. They find a boat. On the boat, they see some men gambling. There's this old man, and he seems to be winning a lot. This big, fat, obnoxious guy, he says, it's like, you've been cheating. And the old man just taunts him and just like goads him on. Young Master kind of walks over. He's like, oh, is there going to be trouble? And He even like flicks his sword. He's ready to intercede if this guy tries to kill the old man. Another really nice drawing here. And he lifts up his blade, attacks. And the old man, without even getting up from his position, just grabs a rock, blocks the blade, and stabs the guy in the gut. Easy as you please. So he thanks young master, and they chat throughout the evening. Kind of get very friendly, you know, they become friends. One thing I wanted to mention, guys, so now that they're making these new stories, new comics group, and luckily they got Mayerick, but they didn't pay a little bit of money to get a real letterer. This person's terrible. I know it might sound like I'm quibbling, but I think bad lettering can really ruin the enjoyment of a comic, especially with art this beautiful. Look at this. Look how great that drawing is there. And this lettering is just like, it's like smearing shit on the Mona Lisa, you know? It's just like, drives me crazy. It's really bad. It's not like, you know, most letters are pretty competent. Most comics I've ever read, I've just been like, oh yeah, that's okay. But this is like someone who never lettered before. I'm going to try to look past the lettering and just look at the art. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't ruin the comic. We still get this beautiful art. The story's pretty engaging, but it's a big flaw in this. So they get to Hokkaido. The old man, I think his name's Baba. He leads them to this village. And then all of a sudden, this seemed kind of sudden to me, these 3 young students bow before young master, and he's, I guess, supposed to teach them to be samurai. And he's fine with it. He's like, sure, I guess I'm a master. That's part of the job of being a master, is passing down the knowledge. So, of course, the first thing he does is like, okay, attack me. I want to see what you're made of. And we get some really, I want to say thoughtful martial arts. It's almost like, yeah, Mayerick probably knows how to do this move, because he's a kung fu master. Oh, this is nice stuff. It's amazing how much his art has changed since the 70s. Also, in the next issue, he's going to change even more. Like, Mayerick's really trying some shit out. So after he kicks the shit out of these kids, he basically says, stay here until I return. And it's snowing out, and these young guys kneel down. He comes back in 5 days. They're still kneeling there. So he realizes it was like a test, you know. He's like, okay. So he takes them up to the mountains, and the real training begins. We see all these various training things, making their bodies tougher, sharpening their senses. It's kind of weird, though, after kneeling in the snow for 5 days. I mean, their feet should be chopped off. You know, they could have totally gotten frostbite. But they, all of a sudden, when they're up in the mountains, they're whining all the time, which seems just not in character for guys who would stay kneeling down in the snow for 5 days. But over the days and weeks and months, young master basically hammers these guys into steel. He's very tough on them. After a while, though, these 3 young guys become enamored with young master. They're almost like schoolgirls with a crush on a guy. They're all just like, oh, master liked my rice better than your soup that we made for his dinner, because they cook his dinner and they fawn over him and they all like want his attention. And as they walk away that night, they're all just being chummy with each other, and the young master realizes just how great these guys are. They're close companions. He just has a strong affection for these kids. He's just like, man, after all I put them through, they're just really good kids. And after a few months, they're ready. And you know what that means in the young master world. So ridiculous. So their graduation is basically, okay, if you guys can kill me, I have succeeded as a teacher and taught you correctly. If you can't, I'm going to kill you. It's so stupid. So the battle begins. the the young guys are doing great. They're tagging him and stuff, and as you've seen in these issues, Young Master usually always wins, but they're really good. They're wounding him. He's actually surprised how good they're doing. But then he chops off one of their legs, and then one of them he slashes his face. I didn't point that out. And then the next guy, he chops off his arm. I love how he does it so skillfully. The kid doesn't even know his arm has been severed. He's like talking, and he just looks down and says, "Oh shit, my hand just fell off." It's crazy. So now a young master goes back to talk to Baba. I think I'm getting that wrong. It's something like Baba. And he says, "Wait, so you didn't kill them?" He says, "No, I just mutilated them." And young master feels terrible. He feels like he's failed as a teacher because his students couldn't kill him. And Baba tells him, "That's silly." But then he gives him this weird wisdom. Their individual strengths, now diminished, will force them to overcome their weaknesses. In the end, it will make them stronger, and they will have you to thank for it. I'll have you to thank for chopping off their limbs, because it'll make them tougher. And then that's kind of weird. It's almost like young master falls asleep. He's in a dream all of a sudden. And kind of like this imagery of these steps. And Baba tells him, he points to a seppuku, ritual suicide sword. And basically says, "Yeah, you got to do this," in so many words. And then look at this page, guys. I find this page remarkable, how the style totally changes. It's almost like a coloring book. It's so devoid of like noodling and illustrative stuff. It's just, I love this style. Look at this amazingly drawn tree. So stylized and interesting. And so in this dream, and I like how the art's different to note that, like, oh yeah, he's in another reality, he's dreaming. He commits seppuku, and he's actually very happy about it. He says, "I found eternal peace at last." But then he wakes up. Baba is gone, and he wanders out to look in the distance, wondering if he'll ever see Baba again. I didn't mention this, but the inside front cover is an editorial this time. It's kind of information about old Japan, written by Valerie Jones. It continues here, and then we get a nice little illustration from Rick Bryant. The guy did a lot of different stuff in the 70s and 80s. Another Warren story, Winter Beast. This one's written and drawn by Mayerick. And this is a totally wordless tale. We see this wolf running through an Arctic landscape, and then we see these two hunters on a snowmobile. And God, look how almost photorealistic this is. The craft in the story is amazing. I don't know what technique this is called, but it's super good looking. So they're hunting the wolf. They're chasing after him, shooting at him, having a gay old time. This poor wolf just wants to live. They shoot him in the leg. He collapses in the snow. They slow down their snowmobile to finish off the job. The wolf growls at them in defiance, even though he can't really fight back. And then all of a sudden, the guys look behind them, and there's this giant, like, Native American spirit woman. God, this art is so nice. That looks great. They shoot at her to no effect. She waves her wand and she freezes them. And then she kneels down before the wolf and touches him, and she heals the wolf, and then flies off. And the wolf walks away. It's one of those stories of a total epic illustrated type. Yeah, okay, that's weird. but not much substance. This back cover, I don't know what the fuck this is, but it almost made me glad that New Comics Group didn't make it past 2 years, because this looks so shitty. Because I think it's sad that New Comics Group didn't continue, because they had a lot of great shit they were putting out. But I'm just glad they didn't put that out. Young Master number 5 with another very movie poster type cover, painted cover by Val Mayerick. Also, we can see like maybe he's been looking at Bill Sienkiewicz, Dennis Cohen, you know, this kind of like sloppy, just letting the paint run, almost multimedia-ish effect. And so now we have Kyojin, which means madman in Japanese. Now, this is the debut of new series writer Chuck Dixon. At the time, I think he just started working at Marvel, but he definitely was working at Eclipse Comics a lot in the 80s. Of course, art still by Val Mayerick. I don't know if the letter has changed, but it looks like it. It looks way better. This is much better lettering than the past 2 issues. So we see this monastery. It's silent. The windows are broken in, and it's just filled with dead monks. But we see these musical notes. We hear a sound. And as we follow, make our way into the monastery, we go down these steps. We see the musical notes. I love how these musical notes are like almost like P. Craig Russell, like very stylized and designy. We realize that the musical notes are coming from this flute of Yuki, who's trapped in this cell with the young master, who's really beaten up bad. Now, if you guys notice, the art's totally different this issue. It's, I really see like the Walt Simonson in here. Just like look at this here. Val Mayerick never would have shaded like that. Look, just a little squiggle instead of like doing lots of feathery cross-hatching like he would have done. Not that that was bad. I like both styles, but I really like this style. So now we flash back to see how our heroes got here. They're traveling through the snow, and these snow ninjas attacked in their winter gear. They jumped out of the snow. They attack, and of course, you probably know the outcome. Young Master kills them all. But I guess you might not know, but this is rare. They actually wounded him. One of them tagged him in the gut. Some really great action stuff going on. He sees a reed in the snow. This is one of the reeds that the ninjas were breathing through while they were buried in the snow. Picks it up, makes a notch in it, and turns it into a little flute for the little girl, for Yuki. And that's how she got the flute. So she says, "Come, samurai, you're wounded. We got to get you to a safe place." He's feeling really bad. He's feeling poorly. And luckily, though, they see this monastery in the distance. He knocks on the door, they open it, and it immediately collapses. Man, there's just some... Val Mayerick's really stretching, just trying shit out. Look at this face here. Just great cartooning. 3 days later, young master wakes up. We meet Shigo, the gardener of the monastery. There's nothing to do in winter for him, so he's in charge of taking care of young master, nurse him back to health. Says, "I'll introduce you to the other monks." He sees the monks. They're doing their training. The combat instructor here is Koichi, and Koichi just got a bug up his ass. He's just like, "There's not enough rice here. We can't afford to feed you guys. You should move on." And she goes like, "What are you talking about? Come on, be merciful." And luckily then the monastery elder Shintaro shows up. And he says, "Koichi, we got plenty of rice. They can stay as long as they want." And as they walk off, Koichi's glaring at them. Next, Shigo, he doesn't introduce them, but he shows them this one monk, Ryo Mori, who has literally been in this room for 10 years without speaking. He spends every minute from morning to night meditating on the Godhead. And he just has his own little room, his own little meditative chamber. Look at this. It's kind of scary looking. But also look at this, like the what do you, not airbrush, doing the splatter. Something else Mayerick isn't known for doing, or at least wasn't known for doing. That night, there's a cry of murder, murder. Shintaro is dead. And Shintaro has been killed with one single sword stroke. Now, there's no swords allowed in the monastery for the monks. They let young master keep his sword. So, of course, Koichi says, it's obvious who killed him. It's the young master. He's the only one with the sword. All the monks attack him with their wooden swords, and they conk him out in the head. Shigo protests, because Koichi just wants to kill him. Shigo says, no, we're men of learning and peace, not murderers. So he says, fine, we'll throw him in a cell. Let him die of starvation. They'll indirectly die. We won't be necessarily responsible for it. And then as Shigo walks away, he sees someone. And he says, what are you doing here? I haven't invited you to my chambers. And the guy's wooden sword, he pulls at it. There's actually a blade inside. And he runs Shigo through. Now, another monk happens to around the corner at the time. He sees this, turns tails and runs, yelling bloody murder, saying, the murderer's here. All the monks come out with their wooden swords, and this murderer just tears through these guys like a cyclone. Look how gory this is. This story is it's pretty much just like a horror story, like a psychological thriller or something. Mayerick did say in an interview this was his favorite young master story. So now the whole young master can't do anything. He's stuck in the cell, but he can hear the screams of the dying. So now, after killing all the monks, the murderer walks down to the cell. He can hear the flute playing from within, and he enters the cell. And it turns out it's that guy who hasn't talked in 10 years. That would probably drive you batty, right? And it's kind of funny, after not talking for 10 years, he kind of won't shut up here. He's like, I've spent 10 years contemplating the perfect sword thrust. That's why he was such a good killer, just by thinking about it. By contemplating it, he's become an expert. All I have to do is follow the sound of your flute, and then I can kill the little girl. It'll take me right to her. Look at that. I just realized I almost even see the line work of like Ernie Colon in here a little. Just very thin lines. So he's following the sound of the flute. He walks right by Yuki because she isn't blowing the flute. Young Master is. So Young Master leads him right to his sword. Look at this amazing effect here. It's almost like that Dennis Bouveau guy who did that Warlock 5. It almost looks like airbrush. Whatever technique this is. Really slick looking. So Young Master kills this guy. And he tells Yuki a pity. 10 years of silence. And he could not keep his mouth shut to save his life. We have a letter page. A little sketchbook from Mayerick. This is kind of nice. Look at this one, though. This is amazing. This is Mayerick obviously trying to do a Frazetta. This is so Frazetta-ish. Not as good, of course, but nobody is as good as Frazetta. Really nice, though. Now we have yet another one of those little Warren stories. I imagine that, like, Mayerick somehow got all of his Warren stories back. He got the rights back when Warren went out of business. Maybe he had some money saved up and he just bought them. Because a lot of those stories other people bought, like Harris Comics, they bought the rights to Vampirella and a lot of the creepy and eerie stuff. So this one is written by Roger McKenzie, longtime Marvel writer, did a lot of stuff for Warren, and obviously drawn by Mayerick. It's called Wind. This is very un-Warren-like. It's not scary. It's just a sad story, like A sad historical tale. It's kind of interesting. There's the captions are, it's the voice of the wind. And the wind is like talking to this Indian chief named Mountain Heart. And also, it's kind of weird. The wind's kind of a dick. He's just like taunting this guy. This poor guy's lost everything. And he's like, you'll be forgotten. I'll cover you with a white blanket of snow. He says, no, we'll be free. I have a dream. Our shaman, Sleek Knife, saw a vision. And the wind says, you fool. Sleek Knife is dead. Your people are dead. And you'll be dead. And there'll be no more dreams. I don't know why the wind's got to be like that. But suffice to say, the art in here is just phenomenal. This is just all great. So, basically Mountain Heart is just railing against the wind. The wind's just telling him, the buffalo are all dead. Most of your people are dead. You got a few stragglers. You're all starving. You're not going to make it. You're all going to die. He even sees a dead buffalo. And then he has a flashback. Him and Sleek Knife were returning from a hunt. And they saw smoke. They see smoke over their village. Their worst fears are realized that the white man has burned down their village, killed everyone there. His only thought is of Swift Deer, his loved one. And, of course, she's dead, too. He, that night at the campfire, he's just eaten up with sorrow until he gets angry. And he says, they will pay. Their blood will stain the earth. And right then, the shaman dies. Just of old age. It's kind of weird that right at that moment he dies. So he rounds up a bunch of rebels, and they go on the warpath. And they burn down white men's towns, kill as many white people as they can. Now we cut back. He's wandering through this mountain, because the Sleek Knife told him that, past this mountain there'll be a paradise. You can escape the white man and his ways. So that's where he was leading his people. Apparently everyone died from the elements. They just don't show us. So now it's just him climbing this mountain. It's fucking freezing. And then it seems like he made it. After he makes it to the top of the mountain, he sees this beautiful, idyllic paradise. And better than that, he sees his wife, Swift Deer. She's alive. And looking really good naked. He dives in the pond, in this lake. She dives in. They embrace. He says, surely I have found paradise. You have come back to me. And she says, no, my warrior. It is you that have joined me. And we pull back. And Mountain Heart is dead. He froze to death as well. Really gruesome panel there. And, of course, the wind keeps jabbering on. Just kind of rubbing it in. I told you, you're all going to die. We see these Native American ghost spirits coming to gather him up, I guess. Pretty horrific. Oh, man, it's just a bummer of a story. It's not really scary or anything. And then here's that inside front cover from #1 in full color. Just like I told you guys, isn't this beautiful? It was a crime to publish this in black and white. I would put this poster on my wall if I had it. Love this. So good. Also, before I read this comic, if you told me this was Val Mayerick, I'd say, no, it isn't. You're lying. So there you go, guys. Young Master #1 through 5. Next episode, we're going to look at the rest of them. Hope you guys enjoyed looking at this with me, and I hope it makes you reevaluate the merits of Val Mayerick. And I haven't read these in a long time. I forgot just how gorgeous some of this is. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.